Hey everyone, welcome to Remap. My name is Jared, and today I'll be taking a look back at the games of Season 2 of Remap, the gaming podcast. So, I reviewed 10 games this past year, and in this episode, I'm going to be ranking them from 10 to 1. Now, this isn't as simple as just ordering them by my rating during each particular review. I like these recaps to be more of a retrospective on the year. So, it's mostly ranked on how much enjoyment I got out of the game and how memorable it is. I'm comparing my experiences with each game to one another. They're not being looked at in a vacuum like during my normal reviews. A game could have a lot of problems or issues, but if I got a ton of fun hours out of it, it'll probably end up higher ranked than a well-made AAA game that I had a boring or forgettable time with. And I've also broken these 10 games I reviewed into 5 distinct tiers: platinum, gold, silver, bronze, and copper, where the games can be in basically any order in their respective tiers, but you'll also see it's how it helps me differentiate the best from the worst. And I won't be talking about any spoilers for the games included, and as always, these are my opinions and mine alone. Starting off at the bottom of the list, the only game in the copper tier, we have Persona 5 Strikers. As much as I love Persona 5, Strikers just was not it. I cannot tell you anything about the story. I can tell you I didn't like the combat. This game is just not something I'm ever going to play again. I don't know how to describe it. I just did not enjoy it. I played it because it's a Persona game. The music, incredible as always. I am not going back to that game ever again. Now, Strikers was the only game in this bottom tier, and the next game is also in a tier of its own. And at 9, we have Spider-Man Miles Morales, the only game in bronze tier, which it's really tough to put this low because it is a really fun, well-made game, but there was just not enough content for me to put it any higher. I remember playing it in a weekend, and not a long weekend at that. And due to the similarities with the previous title, Spider-Man 2018, Miles Morales is the only game on this list that felt like it could have been a DLC. Swinging around the city is so much fun, which keeps it out of the Strikers tier. But the lack of just everything else prevented it from being any higher. But I did want to put it in its own distinct tier, bronze, just not to lump it in with Strikers. Strikers was the only stinker I played this year. Now, I had to put Strikers and Miles Morales in their own tiers, but my silver tier encompasses the next 4 titles. All were enjoyable, solid playthroughs. At 8, we have A Plague Tale: Innocence. Just a really unique and fun game that's led by a really, really engaging story. I went into it knowing nothing about it, which I think made my playthrough that much more enjoyable. The real shock value of moments like rats eating a person alive and just a skeleton falling down through the pile of rats is what I took away from it. Just these shocking moments stuck with me. And if you're wondering, why it's this low, like I said, the games in each tier are very similar in rank, but I had to put it somewhere. At number 7, we have Horizon Forbidden West, a well-made game with some incredible combat and incredible, beautiful visuals, but man, oh man, the most convoluted story I have ever seen. A certain amount of predictability in a story is a good thing. It gets your audience thinking about how the pieces fit together, and the foreshadowing makes the climax exciting. But with Horizon, I just felt like I was along for the ride. I could not predict a single thing that was coming up. The game was full of great individual missions and moments, but when it all came together, I was just a bit disappointed by the story. There was just too much going on, and it got way too complex. Moving on. At number 6, we have Ghost of Tsushima. Like Horizon, Ghost is an open world title with some great combat mechanics, but I do think Ghost executed this story a hair better. It got a little drawn out. The third act was a slog by the time I got to it. It was very straightforward tale with clear and impactful story beats. And I distinctly remember the standoff feature, and the cinematic feeling of that combat was a highlight of the year. And this was a game I played a year ago. Now, at number 5, and the last game in the silver tier, we have Deathloop. I thought long and hard about whether to put it in silver or gold, but I settled on the top of silver. I thought the titles above it stood out just a minuscule amount better. But Deathloop executed a complex time manipulation story extremely well, and I remember enjoying the fast-paced combat. But, oh my gosh, the UI, disgusting, terrible. Anytime I'm moving a cursor around with a controller, you need to go back to the drawing board. But my best memories from Deathloop wasn't the story, actually, but it was the multiplayer aspect. Being able to invade the world of my friends that were playing. It was such a new concept, and I really hope more games blend this sort of interactive single-player genre in the future. Deathloop is a single-player experience that just had a really unique way of engaging online players. Actively entering a single-player world in a way that made sense in the story. And moving on, at number 4, the first game of the gold tier, we have Firewatch. This game may look and play like a 2007 title, aka I did not think it looked good, and it is some stiff and slow controls, but my goodness, the story is superb. If you haven't caught on from all my reviews, I believe that one of the most important aspects of a game is how it creates an emotional response in the player. I want to feel something when playing a game. And Firewatch probably gave me the strongest emotional response of any game I played this year. At number 3, we have the final game of gold tier, Inscription. It may have been some recency bias because I just played it a couple of months ago, but I truly believe out of all the games I played this year, Inscription will stick out the most 5 years from now. The pure tension caused by the unknown was a rare thing to see in games. Usually tension is associated with, jump scares or terror or horror games, but this was such a unique feeling that I really, really enjoyed it. And the card mechanics were my favorite of any deck builder I have played. Now, at number 2, we have entered the Platinum tier. And when I started writing this recap, I knew right away what games would be in this top tier. And at 2, we have God of War Ragnarok. I cannot say enough great things about this title. From the story to the combat, it's just a well-designed, well-executed experience. And definitely deserving of all of the praise it received on launch. Now, you may be wondering, wait a minute, Ragnarok was 2. After all the praise you gave it in your review, and you just gave it moments ago. And yeah, and I actually almost put this game, my number 1 game, in a tier of its own. Because the game I invested the most time and money into, and my top game of 2022, is Genshin Impact. I don't know how, and I don't know why, but I started playing Genshin in January of 2022. It is now January of 2023, and I am still playing this game. The regular updates, the new characters, and the drive to optimize every build just keeps me coming back. And the soundtrack is one I actively listen to, with new songs like the Port Ormos theme that just came out a few months ago, blowing me away. Just an incredible soundtrack that is just getting better over time. It may be an unpopular title for some due to the gacha mechanics, but I have gotten so many hours of fun out of it. But that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. You have been listening to Remap, the gaming podcast. My name is Jared, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.